Hello and welcome to the Scenic Ride, a podcast where we explore some of the best motorcycle rides in North America and beyond. I'm Sanna.
I'm Staci.
And I'm Davin.
Today we are headed to one of my favorite areas of this entire country to ride a section of Highway 89A known as the Fredonia Vermilion Cliffs Scenic Road, or just the Vermilion Cliffs Highway. This 82-mile road runs through Vermilion Cliffs National Monument in northern Arizona, and it has some of the most spectacular red rock views I've ever seen. Apologies in advance for how many times I'll probably be saying the word spectacular in this episode. But before we dive in, just a quick reminder to follow at the Scenic Ride on all the socials if you want to see some footage from the places we're talking about and see our beautiful faces. We also have some hats and shirts and stuff that you can grab on thescenicride.com. All right, let's get started. When we're recording this, I actually just got back from a road trip specifically to ride the Vermilion Cliffs Highway. That was in late April, which at least in the Southwest, I would say is the start of road trip season. And this time of year, as soon as winter ends, I always start physically craving red rocks. And I probably mentioned this in every episode, but I did not grow up in the US. And even though I've lived in California for almost 18 years, I'm still completely in awe of some of the desert landscapes in the American West. And this region that we're talking about today, basically the border between northern Arizona and southern Utah, this is usually the first place I go to get my red rock fix because it's so insanely beautiful. This area includes Zion National Park, Monument Valley, Lake Powell. So those are some of the most famous road trip destinations in the country. And you can also obviously go up through Utah to see even more red rocks in Moab and the national parks along Highway 12. But I just think there's something so special about the Vermilion Cliffs area. It feels so remote and quiet. And even though the road we're talking about is mostly pretty straight, I kind of enjoy that because it means you can pretty much just sit back and really soak in the view. Have you guys both been here?
I have. I don't know if I've ridden the entire thing. I'm actually pulling up a map of it on Google Maps right now to double check. But I have done part of it. I know that for sure.
I know you've been to Jacob Lake because we're going to be talking about the cookies there, and I'm pretty sure you're the one that told me about those.
I have strong opinions on these cookies. We will talk about them.
Okay, so I know you've been to that part. What about you, David?
Yes, I've done most of it, and I've done most of the side quests around the area as well.
Yeah, that's the thing about this area is that you really can't pick a bad road. Like, they're all really good. I picked this one because I think it's underrated and really, really spectacular, but it's just also kind of one of the many ways to get through this region and, enjoying these insane red rock views. So just some general info on this route. The Vermilion Cliffs Highway, like I said, runs for 82 miles between Fredonia and Bitter Springs in northern Arizona. So that's just south of the Utah border. It basically parallels the state line. And if you're starting in Fredonia and riding east, the first half of the ride will take you through some kind of plains, farmlands with some cliffs way off in the horizon. It's pretty, but it's also mostly flat and straight. But then the road climbs up into the Kaibab National Forest and the Kaibab Plateau. And this is where it gets twisty and forested with ponderosa pines and lots of wildlife. And then you'll start descending down this grade into the House Rock Valley and the second half of the Vermilion Cliffs Highway. And this is where, in my opinion, things start getting really good because this is where that really epic red rock landscape starts. So we'll focus on the second half of the road in this episode. But before we get into that, let's go over some quick trip planning tips first. And I think this goes for pretty much all of northern Arizona and southern Utah. Basically, it gets really hot in the summer and it can get really cold in the winter, especially at elevation, and it might even snow. So I would say the best time to travel is probably fall or spring. So April, May, or September, October. What do you guys think? When have you been to this region?
So I went in late October and I camped on the north rim of the Grand Canyon up by Jacob Lake. And there was absolutely snow on the ground. Not a ton, but there was some snow, and it definitely got into the high 20s that night. Like it was one of those where I was like, I really hope my motorcycle starts in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because that road to the north rim of the Grand Canyon closes at the end of October for the season. It's not even open in the winter. So that's a late time of year to go up there.
Yep. And so it was beautiful during the day, like, because I rode from Page to Jacob Lake that day. Like I went into the north rim of the Grand Canyon and came back and camped. And yeah, it just got really chilly once the sun went down. But during the day, it was beautiful, like 75 degrees. So
yeah, and that's interesting too, because the Jacob Lake region and the north rim of the Grand Canyon, that's at much higher elevation than some parts of this road. So if it's nice up in the mountains, it might be still very hot down kind of on the desert floor. So it is a little bit tricky to prepare for a road like this, even though the Jacob Lake section is at like 8,000 feet, but that's only about 20 miles of this road. So you can also just kind of suck it up if it's cold and get down into the desert and be warm again.
I did it in June after Born Free one year, 2015, I think it was. And I have a picture of myself laying in a parking lot in Las Vegas in the shadow of my bike because it was 118 degrees and that was the coolest place I could find. And then when we got up over, up to like past Mesquite and St. George and started climbing, it got cooler quick. And, and it was like in the 70s up on top. So it was quite nice to get out of that hellhole.
Yeah, I've done that too. I've done Southern Utah and like Monument Valley in June before, and did all 5 national parks in Utah in 1 week, and did Monument Valley in northern Arizona, and it was in the hundreds for a lot of it. It was doable, but it was very hot. And now that I just went at the end of April, it was mostly, I'd say, in the 50s and 60s, so kind of cold still at the end of April. But really kind of nice because it was sunny, it wasn't rainy, it wasn't too windy. So I think end of April, early May is usually a pretty good time to go to.
Yeah, I figured it was kind of chilly. That's why I didn't ask if your new seat cover was nice, because I figured your butt just froze the whole time and you hated it.
Yeah, so for context, I just put a new seat cover on my Pan American. It's a Cool Covers that Davin recommended to me. And the main selling point of that seat cover is that it like gives you really good airflow. Which it did. But it also it really helps with circulation. I rode some pretty long days on that trip, and I didn't think about my butt at all, which is usually that's a good word, I think.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about your butt, then something has gone wrong.
Then there's a problem. Okay, good.
That's a good product test.
Yeah, I think it worked. All right. Anything else on trip planning advice before we start actually going down the route?
I would say just gas. I don't feel like there's a lot of gas stations out there. I remember, you guys can correct me, I remember there being gas and Page and good lodging options. And depending on when you go, because there are shoulder seasons and everything out there, I got a room at a Best Western Plus in Page late October for like $70, which is dirt cheap. And this was in 2022. So this wasn't even that long ago. So I would also say, if you need lodging, that would be a good place to look. I don't know what the North Rim is like now since the fires, but Jacob Lake, there used to be a Chevron there, right at the turnoff where the cookies are at. And those are like the 2 main gas stations that I know of. Am I missing any?
Those are the 2 main gas stations. There's also on the eastern end, like Fredonia, Kanab, there's gas there. And again, this whole route is only like 80 miles long. So you can definitely...
Most people will make
Most people.
Yeah.
But if you can't, then the Jacob Lake Chevron is still there. I stopped there on this trip. I actually stopped there, and this guy on an adventure bike who was here from Mexico on like a massive trip, his credit card had gotten stuck in the pump. And so him and the gas station attendant were like trying to find tools. So they asked me, like I had to pull my toolkit out for them to see if they could get his
Nice.
card out of the machine.
Oh, jeez.
The only time I had to pull my tools out on this whole trip, which is also good for me. But yeah, when I left, he was still trying to get his card out. So I guess maybe pay cash at Jacob Lake if you can.
I think the other thing that comes to mind for me is it gets cold and dark quick in those spots. So be prepared, just because you're comfortable during the day, it's not going to be like that for long.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that too, especially if you're traveling in the fall. It gets dark earlier.
And just pack water. So I don't know if either of you have had a heat stroke before, but I had a heat stroke like 12 years ago when I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. And I definitely can tell when it's really hot outside. They say that you're more susceptible to heat strokes once you've had one, but I personally just think I am more self-aware now. And so when it's super, super hot out, I'm always like, I need water. I'm like SpongeBob. I'm like, I'm going to dry up and I'm not going to be able to breathe. And so I always carry extra water on me. So if you're someone like me who just needs to be particular like that, I think that's something to consider.
Yeah, I always carry a water bladder, like a 2-liter bladder in my tank bag so I can drink while I'm riding. And that makes a big difference for just, endurance on those really hot days.
Same.
Yeah, I usually have a little package of the salt chews and stuff too, just in case, just to be over prepared if you need some of that and some agua.
Yeah, because if you're not used to this area, like let's say that you're from the East Coast and you're planning this big road trip to experience the Southwest, Appalachia is pretty humid compared to the Southwest, and you're just not going to be used to that dry heat. And before you know it, you just like all the water in your body has been sucked out of you by the climate, and you don't even realize it till it's too late. So yeah, definitely pack some water because we were just speaking about gas stations. Yeah, it's only 80, 90 miles long, but if you're stopping to see any of the cool things that we're going to talk about in this podcast, like that 80 to 90 miles can take you all day to experience. And there's not a lot of shade. There's not a lot of, places to stop and refill for water. So just keep that in mind.
Especially if you're planning to do any hiking or any exploration on foot in this area too, because we are going through Vermilion Cliffs National Monument, which is completely undeveloped. No paved roads, no marked hiking trails. So you're basically out there on your own in a kind of rugged, desolate desert landscape. So definitely be prepared. And if you're out, even if it's not that hot, it's still probably going to be pretty sunny. And, if you're out in the sun all day long, just make sure you hydrate. And I was extra careful with hydration on this trip because I had a little bit of an incident a couple of weeks ago where I passed out from dehydration, and that was not the first time that's happened to me. So I really try to stay on top of it. Like drink your Gatorades or whatever you need. You need your electrolytes too. But that's general advice. That's not even necessarily specific to this. It's just like long hours in the saddle of a motorcycle is going to be dehydrating, and you should just make sure that your body has what it needs to stay alert because it's important on a motorcycle.
It is. Safety third.
Yes. Again, it's the whole do as we say, not as we do thing. But yeah. All right. Well, let's start heading down the Vermilion Cliffs Highway. We already started talking about Jacob Lake, and I think that's really the first stop because, again, the first kind of, 30, 40, probably around 30 miles of this route, it's just not that exciting. There's not that much to stop and see and do. So it's really kind of when you get up into that Kaibab National Forest part of it where it gets fun and exciting, and there's some twists and turns. There's also a lot of fire damage up there, which is kind of sad to see, but it's also beautiful in a way. Like it's just kind of it changes the landscape a lot, and it's still really beautiful, like in kind of a devastating way. So then you take the twisty road, you get up to Jacob Lake, and Jacob Lake is the gateway to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. So you can get off the 89A and take, I think, is it the 67? Yeah, 67 from Jacob Lake. That's a 45-mile road that goes down to the north rim of the Grand Canyon.
And it's one way in, one way out. So don't forget that with all you tiny tank people, aka me.
So fill up at the gas station at Jacob Lake if you're planning to go down to the Grand Canyon. Well, so, okay, let's get into the cookie situation. So Jacob Lake Inn is famous for it. They have a lot of stuff there. It's a lodge, it's a restaurant, it's a little curios shop. But I usually only stop there to pick up some of their home-baked cookies. And especially between mid-May and mid-October or end of October, which is when the road to the Grand Canyon is open, that's when they have the biggest cookie selection. So when I was there at the end of April, they only had like 5, but usually they have like maybe 25 different kinds. And I love them, but I am very curious to hear what Staci has to say about this.
I have a bone to pick with these cookies because I have heard so many positive things about the Jacob Lake cookies, and I was so disappointed in them. And I genuinely think that this comes down to cookie preference. I like my cookies medium rare / like gooey. And Jacob Lake cookies are hard and crunchy. At least the like 4 or 5 of them that I bought were all hard and crunchy. So I remember like filming this. I never even published this video because I was like so disappointed by these cookies. And I'm sitting at my bike, like getting ready to eat these cookies that I've waited years to try. And I bite into it and it's just like just, it's like a rock. And I was just like, no. And I was like, let's try another one. It was like snickerdoodle and chocolate chip. I got a bunch. Nope. Crunchy on the next one too. And I was just like, well, that just ruined my entire day because I hate crunchy cookies. It's obviously, can y'all tell? So, yeah. So anyway, they weren't my favorite. I was really bummed. And I don't know if they're normally gooey and or just soft. Like they don't even have to be gooey. They just need to be soft. I don't want to feel like I'm eating cardboard.
I think you must have caught them on a bad day, or maybe it was like the previous day's cookies or something.
Yeah. Because it was horrible. 0 out of 5 stars. I'm not even giving them 1.
Oh, no, because I don't mind a crunchy cookie, but I've been there a couple of times and they have not been crunchy. They've been medium rare. The times I've been there, and I've tried a couple of different kinds, and they've been perfectly gooey, chocolatey, like so good. Now, honestly, I just want their cookies now. Yeah. I have the complete opposite experience than you do.
I have a rule that I will give any place a second try because sometimes you do catch a restaurant or an eatery in general on an off day. And so it was one of those things where I remember going to camp that night with a couple extra cookies thinking of like bear or mountain lion was going to come and like try and eat them in my tent because I was just first camping in the Jacob Lake area. Anyway, I remember sitting there and just talking to myself and I was like, it's the end of the season. These could have been 2-day-old cookies because they just don't have a lot of foot traffic up here right now. You're going to have to come back another time. That's not at the very end of the season. But at the same time, I was like, I'm freezing and I just want a gooey cookie.
Well, I think you need to go back and give them a second chance.
I will. I haven't gotten to do that yet, but it is on the to-do list in the future. So,
okay, good. And then since we've already mentioned it a bunch of times, I think the Grand Canyon North Rim, I guess it's technically a side quest, but it is part of this route. I haven't been down that way because of the 90-mile additional round trip just to get down there. But as far as I know, the Grand Canyon North Rim is much less crowded than the South Rim. So you'll see the same kinds of views. I mean, it's still that otherworldly landscape that kind of is too grand to even take in and comprehend when you look at it. I think like looking at the Grand Canyon is so hard. It's so hard to take it all in because it's so big and it's so spectacular. Drink every time I say spectacular and you'll get sloshed by the end of this episode. But it's just like looking at a painting, and the human brain, I don't think can really comprehend what you're looking at.
Cannot.
But that part of the park is open seasonally, usually from mid-May to the end of October. And this year is a little bit different than normal years because of the big fire that they had last year. So the Dragon Bravo fire of 2025 burned over 145,000 acres and destroyed 113 structures, including the historic Grand Canyon Lodge. So you can't actually stay in a lodge at the Grand Canyon North Rim anymore because that lodge is very sadly destroyed by fire. And for the 2026 season, the National Park Service has said that they're taking a what we can, where we can, when we can approach. So they are reopening areas kind of one at a time, while continuing long-term recovery and protecting park resources. So you can, if you're planning to go this year, I would recommend checking the National Park Service website for the Grand Canyon. It has an updated list of which trails are open and which ones are closed and what you can do right now. But Staci, you have actually been to the North Rim, right?
I have, and it was the first side of the Grand Canyon that I got to see. So that was pretty interesting. The North Rim of the Grand Canyon sits about 1,000 miles higher than the South Rim. So
1,000.
Did I say 1,000 miles? We're going to redo that.
That's so high.
No, just leave that in the podcast. So the North Rim of the Grand Canyon sits about 1,000 feet higher than the South Rim. So you are a little bit higher in elevation, which is also, like we were talking about, why it is open seasonally, because they actually get snowpack and stuff up there. The weather's just so different from the South Rim. But you get a totally different perspective of the Grand Canyon up there. And so I think both sides are really cool to see. But I do think what makes the North Rim so special really is, one, the extra elevation, because you can see everything. Versus the South Rim, you do kind of feel like you're a little more in the canyon when you're standing on the edge of it. But the amount of people that do not exist on the North Rim is actually very nice. Like, I do think that is a huge plus. I don't remember the statistics off the top of my head, but I feel like 90% of the people that visit the Grand Canyon only go to the South Rim. So the North Rim sees a fraction of the people.
Yeah, I've also been to Grand Canyon West, just to add a different perspective to this, which is not part of the national park. It's native owned and operated, and that's where you can find that glass bridge that goes out over the canyon. So you can pay to go out and stand and look down through the bridge, just look straight down into the canyon, which is really cool. But that's a lot more similar to the South Rim. And I think I do need to make it to the North Rim. Have you been up there, Davin?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Staci. I feel like the North Rim looks more real because you're standing up above and you can see so much, and it's just a really cool spot, and it's super quiet. I mean, there was we could stop and take photos and didn't have to pass the 30 cars that we just got by and all that stuff. And anytime I've been to the South, I'm just like, this isn't real. Like, my brain just can't comprehend what I'm looking at because it's so insane. But yeah, the North Rim definitely gives you that holy crap vibe. And there's also a spot you can get down to the north side, also outside of the park. If you go south of St. George, there's like an 80-mile each way that I wrote down on my Pan America, and you get to basically your own little lookout, and you can see all the people down there in their rafts and stuff, and it's a super, super cool spot. Sure, I'll post some of those on our highlight reels once this drops.
I think a lot of people avoid the Grand Canyon because they think it's too touristy. And I specifically think that applies to the South Rim because it's so packed with people. Like, if you can get away from the people and just look at the canyon, it's still the same spectacular experience. But I think the North Rim is where you go if you want just the serene natural experience and not have to deal with any tourists, really.
The solitude of nature.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I think that, of course, I can't speak to what it's like now because I was there in 2022. So I don't know what the limitations are after the Dragon Bravo fire. But when you first get to the end of the road, which is where the Grand Canyon Lodge and all the cabins were, the first views that you can really get of the canyon aren't really spectacular. If you go to that main viewpoint, there is one other little scenic drive that's different. I haven't gone to do that one. But when you first get to see the canyon, it's like, cool, big hole in the ground, but it isn't anything crazy. And you're like, that's it. But if you go back behind the historic lodge, there are some really nice viewpoints. And then you can actually see the canyon, and you can kind of walk out on a couple ledges and everything. And that is worth it. So if you do go, just plan to do a little bit of walking. You don't have to go too far, but it is worth it to, at least spend an hour there walking around and checking stuff out. But I will say too, lodging wise, Jacob Lake Inn, I don't know if we touched on that earlier, that you can actually stay there. There are rustic cabins there. And I just wanted to mention that before I forgot again. I know the name, implies that there's lodging, but I know plenty of places that are called a something motel and it's no longer, a lodging option. So that is an option.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's camping in that area as well.
Yeah. So this is my personal hack to the Grand Canyon because I've only been one time and it was a success for the North and South Rims. I went October 30th and October 31st. So very end of the season. Like I said, it was freezing cold on the North Rim at night because I had dispersed camped. But the road to get there was clear. I was on a motorcycle. There was like a couple patches of black ice, but nothing crazy. So just check the weather before you go. Make sure it hadn't like snowed the night before. But the South Rim, I went on Halloween. There was nobody there. Like there was no line to get in. Every single overlook, there was not a single person. Like, I can't think of what the South Rim big parking lot is on the eastern end. There's like a little castle overlook thing, but that's a very popular stop. Like the parking lot is massive, and there was maybe 15 cars in the parking lot when I was there, which is nothing. And so I got to really take my time going through the South Rim because I was like, it will never be like this again. Like I will never get to come back and experience this unless I come at this exact same time of year. So that's my hack. Maybe plan to do Halloween in like Williams, Arizona or something. That's what I did. I did not have a costume, but the whole town was dressed up. So that was cool. I was just a motorcyclist, but
well, now you've blown up the spot. Now it's going to be packed for Halloween.
Yeah. Just plan for it to be a little cold. But yeah, that's my life hack.
Yeah, that's great. I've been to the Grand Canyon in the spring and gotten snowed in and not been able, like I've tried to make it to the Grand Canyon in the spring and gotten snowed in Flagstaff and not been able to go like in May. So I think the fall is generally a little safer, but I like going in the spring because that's when my body is craving red rocks. Speaking of which, let's get back on the Vermilion Cliffs Highway and start heading down the grade out of the Jacob Lake and the Kaibab National Forest area. So this is when we descend down into the valley, and this is where the Vermilion Cliffs National Monument starts. And this is 3 million acres of wilderness. So there are no visitor centers, no campgrounds. Like I said, no marked trails or paved roads. You're surrounded by 3,000-foot cliffs. There are slot canyons. There are these epic views. And just driving through this is so incredible. It's desolate, remote, quiet. There are very few cars out here. And the scale of these mountains is hard to grasp. The cliffs just keep going for miles and miles. And it's just like a big red wall. And it's so dramatic and it's so cool. I love it so much. Have you guys been on this part of the road, or is this all new?
No,
I've been there.
I've been there, done that. Yeah, I've been on this part of the road. So I've ridden it from Page to Jacob Lake. So I haven't done that last little stretch to Fredonia. But this area, if you love rocks, you're in for a treat because it is beautiful.
And I think everyone on this podcast loves a good rock.
Ooh, especially if it's red.
Them. Yes, 100%. And so within this wilderness area is where the wave sits. And I haven't been there, but I'll just mention it real quick because it's one of those really famous spots that a lot of people come out here for. Have you been there?
No, but I've always wanted to.
Yeah. It's really hard to get a permit. So for those who don't know, it's this insanely cool geologic sandstone formation that look like waves. And you've definitely seen photos of them. They're highly photographed. And the actual area is called Coyote Buttes North, and it sits within the Paria Canyon Vermilion Cliffs Wilderness. But only 64 people per day are allowed in here, and it's a lottery system through recreation.gov. They only grant 48 permits 3 months in advance, and then 16 the day before. And to be eligible for the day before permits, you have to be within like a geofenced area. And so they say online that the best chances to get a permit is if you go alone and you go during off season, which is December through February when it's very cold. And it's $9 to apply for a permit, and you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah.
That's the experience of pretty much everyone I know. I know like 3 people who have actually gotten a permit, and I know so many people who have tried over and over again and just never gotten lucky. If you do get lucky, it's a 6-mile round trip hike that I believe is pretty strenuous. And again, if you get it during like high season in the summer, it's going to be hot and dry, and you're going to want water and sunshade of some kind. But yeah, we still have that on our lists, I think.
Yeah. Back in my day, 10 years ago, when I lived in Arizona, this wasn't as popular. I guess it wasn't as well known. You know, there's pros and cons to social media, and blowing up the spot is indeed a thing. And I remember like this in Antelope Canyon, it wasn't as big of a deal to try and see these things 10 years ago. It was like, oh yeah, let's just drive up there. It's kind of like going to hike Havasupai Falls, which I've gotten to do, but that's the same kind of deal. I knew about it 10 years ago when I lived in Arizona, and like you would just drive up there and go backpacking into the canyon. Nowadays, like you're lucky if you get a permit the first time you try and apply. It took me 3 years in a row trying to get a permit for Havasupai because they implemented that system. And so it's the same thing for this in Antelope Canyon that's in this area. And now that I'm like, oh, this lottery system's bananas, I'm like, I think I might just have to enjoy the Instagram post. I don't know if I'm ever going to get it. So
yeah, at least Antelope Canyon, you can just book a tour. You don't need a permit for it.
Yeah, there's more options.
Yeah, so that one is good that way. If you do want to see some of those really cool, like wavy rock formations, I think Antelope Canyon is probably going to be your best bet because you don't have to rely on getting really lucky. It's good that they have a limit on how many people can visit. I don't think the ecosystem would survive if, thousands of people went every day. And I understand why they do that on the reservation too for the Havasupai. But I think it's good in theory. It just sucks when you really want to go and you can't.
I fully support, even though I'm mildly complaining. I fully support, just for the record, I fully support the reservation systems because I agree. It's the same with national parks needing timed entry permits. The infrastructure just can't handle the traffic of people who want to enjoy these places because unfortunately not everyone cleans up after themselves and leaves no trace. And just in general, living here in Colorado, for example, when I go drive Trail Ridge Road and I get to the top, I see people busting the crust and they're walking all over the tundra and you're not supposed to. So anyway, long story short, we're not going to go on a nature political tangent here, but I support the permitting system.
I do too, 100%. And the thing is too, when you actually do get a permit, the experience is so special. I think I've mentioned this before on this podcast, but I got a permit to go into Yosemite during the pandemic in 2020 when they had a super limited number of permits available every day. And it felt like I had Yosemite all to myself. It was one of the most special experiences of my life. And I'm so glad I was able to do that, like once in a lifetime experience. And I'm pretty sure that's how it would feel to be able to hike to the wave as well. So if we keep going down this road, most of it is just going to be truly just sitting back and enjoying the views. A lot of the road is pretty straight, but you're surrounded by, especially on the northern side, by these massive red cliffs that are just, they keep changing. You think you're going to come around a corner and then they'll be kind of ending there, but they just keep going and they keep changing and they get closer and farther away from the road. Or I guess the road gets closer and farther away from the rocks. But then you get to one of my favorite spots, which is the Cliff Dwellers Stone House. So this is just a little kind of almost roadside attraction. There are some ruins of these rock homes that were built during the Great Depression. But that and there'll be some vendors there selling some Navajo handmade goods and stuff like that. But what I really love about this spot is that it's one of those areas where you can ride your bike up close to the red rocks and just be completely immersed in the landscape. So this is usually where I bring my sandwich and find a nice rock and sit and just climb up into the red rocks and just sit on one of the rocks and eat my lunch with a view. And that's what I did this last trip too. It's so beautiful. It's, you can take some really good photos in the spot and just hang out for a minute. It's not one of those places where I think you would stop for very long, but it's definitely worth a photo op for sure.
Yeah, I've stopped there and I walked around in that little dwelling, whatever that little building was. And yeah, there's lots of big rocks there, like big boulders that just look like they fell off the side of the cliff face. And yeah, lots of good rocks there for all of our rock lovers tuning in.
Yeah, those are like balanced boulders, I think they're called, because they just look like they're going to fall over at any moment, but they just kind of sit there. And then the next stop on my itinerary, at least, would be Marble Canyon and Lee's Ferry. And I just want to talk about Lee's Ferry Road for a little bit. This is a little bit of a side quest, but when you get to the Marble Canyon area, I would highly recommend getting off the 89A and taking Lee's Ferry Road down to the Colorado River. This is one of the most beautiful roads I've ever ridden. It's only about 6 miles one way, but you are completely immersed in the red rock landscape with these intense, dramatic rock formations, balancing rocks, and this lightly curvy road that descends into the canyon. And the color is so saturated, it doesn't even look real. The first time I rode this road, I literally started crying because of how spectacular the landscape is. And then the road ends at Lee's Ferry, which is one of the only roads, I believe it's the only paved road at least, within the Grand Canyon where you can drive down to the edge of the Colorado River. And you can walk around on the beach down there and you'll actually pass a small sign that says you're entering Grand Canyon National Park. So the river itself and part of the beach is part of the national park, even though it's pretty far from like what you think of when you think of Grand Canyon National Park. And Lee's Ferry is also the historic river launch point for Grand Canyon rafting trips. So if you're going to go paddling in the Grand Canyon, this is where you'll come to launch off. There's camping, there's hiking, there's, like I said, paddling and rafting down here. And Marble Canyon, which is the area that this all sits within, is also the western boundary for the Navajo Nation. So anything east of here is basically Navajo land. Have you guys been all the way down to Lee's Ferry?
No. The day that I was out there, so I've only ridden this road once. The day that I rode from Page to the North Rim, I just felt like I didn't have time. It was one of those where I was like, that's going to add, with how I travel, it's going to add another hour to my trip because I'm going to sit and look at rocks, especially because it's rocks with a river combo. There's no pulling me out of there fast. So
I know.
Oh yeah. So I was like, I just don't have the time. Cause again, I went in late October, the sun sets early. So I was really pressed for time. So I get to live through your post on Instagram vicariously.
Davin, have you been down there?
I have. Yeah, I was trying to find the photos. But yeah, I've done that one twice, and it is like the most magical. That whole area is just insane.
It's insane. It's like what I visualize when I think of road trips, like motorcycle road trips. Like this is the first area that pops into my head of like where I want to go if I want to ride something beautiful. But I did on my last trip, I brought my cookie from Jacob Lake and brought it down to the river edge and sat on a rock and looked at the Colorado River, surrounded by red rock cliffs towering over me in all directions, and just ate my little cookie. And that was a nice magical moment. So I highly recommend going down there. Again, it's only 6 miles one way, so 12 miles round trip. You can just go down and turn around just to have, enjoy those views. Since it is a national recreation area, you do need a national park pass to go in, or you can pay an entrance fee, but it's worth it. Even if you just go down there to turn around and come back, it's still worth paying the entrance fee because
you're basically going between Horseshoe Bend and the bridge, the back way. So it's like a perfect little secret spot to get all the good stuff without having to deal with so many terrible humans.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. And then at the top of Marble Canyon, we have Navajo Bridge. So this is also, it's actually two bridges that run parallel to each other. There's a historic one and then there's a newer one. So one is open to vehicle traffic and one is just like a footbridge that you can stop and walk out on. And it's these steel arch bridges with really beautiful views of Marble Canyon and the Colorado River from above. And I just read that these are actually the ninth highest bridges in the US. They both sit at around 470 feet. So you're pretty high above the canyon. And looking down into it, it looks like a postcard. It's so beautiful. And I also love a good bridge. And this is a good bridge.
I did stop at this bridge.
Okay, good.
It is, we'll confirm, good bridge.
Yes, two good bridges. And also another cool part about this bridge is that this is one of few places where you can see California condors. So that's actually one of the most critically endangered birds that we have in the US. And it's also one of the world's largest birds with a wingspan of up to 10 feet. And I actually saw two when I was just there. And it was so cool just standing on the bridge and these massive birds just flying over you, especially when you know how few of them there are. Like in 2022, there were only about 560 California condors left. And that's only 350 in the wild. So seeing them in person is really special. And just it adds to how just dramatic this whole experience feels.
Yeah, I'm looking at my photos right now. I've got 2 pictures of the bridge, 2 pictures of the view, and then 300 pictures of the birds. They're so cool.
Yeah, I saw them when I was riding over the bridge, and I turned my Insta360 camera on to see if I could catch them on video. And the camera is just too wide angle. You can't even really see the black dots in the sky, unfortunately, but it was still a really cool experience.
Yeah, I had a couple perched here too that I'm looking at that were pretty awesome to watch.
I don't remember seeing the birds. Not to say that they didn't exist. I was probably just really stoked to see rocks and water because I like birds. I'm not in my like bird watching era yet, and I definitely wasn't 3 years ago. But like, I appreciate a good wildlife sighting like that, but I just don't remember it.
And for Sanna to be this nice about these birds, I mean, she's normally hates birds. But
yeah,
she's said so many nice things about these birds in the last 5 minutes.
Well, they're so far away. But no, it's true. I am a certified bird hater, but I do like them from a distance. I just don't want them anywhere near me. I don't want to hear them. They're loud. They're obnoxious.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, no, the California condors are cool even to me, a certified bird hater. So that tells you anything. And then the other thing that's here also at the Navajo Bridge is the visitor center, one of the visitor centers for the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. So this is a good spot if you want to get your stickers. There's also like a bookshop, gift shop. They have bathrooms here. So good little rest stop before you travel onwards. And that pretty much concludes the main part of the Vermilion Cliffs Highway. So there's 14 miles left until you get to the intersection with Highway 89. And it's more kind of the same grand red rock views. And then from that intersection, you can either go north towards Page or you can go south towards Flagstaff. But there's so much good riding around here. We can definitely dive into a couple of side quests. But really quickly, first, I just wanted to go over, we talked about this briefly, but like, where should you stay if you're visiting this area? And so what I did on my last trip was I stayed in St. George, Utah, and then I did this road, and I was planning to stay in Page, which would have been, I think, around 180 miles. I went through Zion National Park in the morning and then did all of this. So it was already like a really good day by the time I got to the end of 89A. And then Page would have been the natural stopping point for the evening. But I happened to go online and check the View Hotel in Monument Valley, which is a place I've been wanting to stay at forever. It's insane. I can't even describe in words how beautiful the view is from there, but it's called the View. So just take my word for it. It's worth it. And I saw that they had an open room and I had to book it. So I had another 130 miles to go. So I just pretty much booked it to Monument Valley after this. But that was over 300 miles. That was a very long day if you're doing national parks, national monuments, stopping for cookies and lunch and side quests. I would not necessarily recommend this. I would recommend staying in Page on the eastern end, or if you're going the other way, Kanab, Utah is another pretty good spot that has, Kanab is an interesting little town. It also sits at, the Red Rock foothills. It has a lot of Western movie filming history. And they also have chain hotels, so it's pretty generally affordable to stay there. If you want to splurge a little bit or have more of an immersive experience, there are lodges near Marble Canyon. There's the Lee's Ferry Lodge. There's Cliff Dwellers Lodge and Marble Canyon Lodge. I haven't stayed at any of those, but I think if you're planning to spend a few days in this area, if you're planning to do some hiking, maybe do some rafting, any outdoor activities where you're planning to not just kind of ride through this area, I would recommend probably looking into one of those, because then you're waking up with Red Rock views and falling asleep with Red Rock views, which that sounds pretty wonderful to me.
Yeah, and there is a ton of dispersed camping out in this area too, for those who are into doing that. So use your maps and you will find those spots. I'm going to gatekeep them from the internet because that's what we do.
Yes, some things we don't gatekeep, like small businesses with good food. Some things we do gatekeep, which is natural areas that would not benefit from a huge influx of people visiting.
Yeah, don't blow the spot. I don't need your toilet paper and your poop at my campsite because you didn't clean it up, brother.
Nope.
Brother.
And that is a big thing out here. I actually learned that this last week. I was in Utah. Speaking of dispersed camping, in Colorado, a lot of the dispersed camping here is on U.S. Forest Service land, and the laws essentially can be different. A lot of the BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, a lot of that land in Utah, you have to pack out all of your waste, including human waste. You cannot leave anything behind, which is the correct way of doing things. But sometimes on U.S. Forest Service campsites dispersed, you can dig a hole, and that's acceptable to cover your waste that way. Anyway, I'm definitely a big fan of the pack it in, pack it out method, because I've never seen such spotless, beautiful, dispersed campsites as I did in Utah. And I know that those sites get used a lot that I stayed at. But other than notable fire rings, like you really wouldn't know, or like tire tracks in the ground or people's footprints from a few days before, like you would have no clue because there wasn't a speck of trash, no plastic, no nothing. It was incredible.
I love that. I saw you posting about that, that you were proud of all the campers in this area of Utah. And I was so happy to see that, because it really, like, generally, if people are left to their own devices and no one is checking in on them, they will not behave properly. So seeing that's really nice. I'm glad to hear that. And I think people in Utah especially are like very protective of their natural landscapes, and that's good to see. Okay, so I did put a thing here about where to eat, but I don't have any recommendations because I just bring sandwiches and cookies from other places and then sit on a rock and eat it. So Staci, you're our resident foodie. What do you have?
Oh man. Well, other than trash cookies at Jacob Lake, if you like crunchy cookies, I do feel like on this scenic byway, that is the thing. Like that is the thing to check out. There is over by where you turn off to go to Lee's Ferry. I know there is some kind of little restaurant right there. I'm not sure what the food quality is like, but I do know there is a restaurant there. I did stay in Page, but I just went to some little Mexican restaurant that was, a couple blocks from the hotel. Don't remember the name of it. It wasn't anything special, but it hit the spot. There is a ton of options in Page. I've only been once, so I unfortunately don't have too many things to recommend there.
I've been to Page a few times, and it's been the same thing. Just proximity to the hotel has determined where I've been eating, and it's been just some random Italian place or random Mexican place. But
there is one spot. So if you decide to come ride the Vermilion Cliffs Highway and you're coming from Flagstaff, you're going to go through a little, I don't even want to call it a town, but it's called Cameron. And there's a spot there called the Cameron Trading Post. And I had another motorcyclist recommend this spot to me. And it's one of those it's a gas station, but then they've got like a restaurant, lodging there. It's all kinds of stuff. It reminds me of like Route 66 kind of, where it's very like trinkety once you get inside, but lots of like Native American, Navajo jewelry, rugs, like all kinds of stuff that you can buy in there. But the restaurant has this pull apart bread And if you like garlic bread and you like cheese, I've been chasing this high ever since. Like, I will go back there for this pull apart bread. Like, never mind a Navajo taco. So they also have like traditional, like Native American style food on the menu as well. They also have burgers, everything. But this pull apart bread on their appetizer menu was so good. And that's what I was told to order when I got there. 10/10, no notes. It was delicious. Like, I wish I would have had a way to put it on the bike and take the extras with me, but I was just out of room. So I would recommend that if you're going to be going through that area.
Wow, I've gone through that area so many times. I'm pretty sure I've stopped at the gas station there because it's not really a town, but it's like a gateway town to the Grand Canyon. I think Cameron is where you turn off to go into the South Rim.
I think so. And I think it's like if you're coming south from Vermilion Cliffs, I want to say that's like one of the first gas stations after you go through a pretty barren stretch.
I was literally just there, or I rode past it. And I'm pretty sure the Cameron Trading Post is the one. They have billboards along the 89 when you're coming down that way. And it says it's something like 100+ seating dining room. Is it really big? Is that the one? Or am I thinking of something else?
It's pretty big. And there's lots of like Navajo art and all kinds of like paintings, pictures, all kinds of stuff in the restaurant itself. I really liked it. I would go back. I did order a Navajo taco. I remember that because it was one of those, I was like, oh, you just have to do it kind of things. And I would have been fine with just the bread as one person. Like, it was a ton of food. But anyway, I would recommend that. And I just looked it up on the map. And yes, so that little area right there is definitely by Highway 64, which is the eastern entrance to the South Rim.
My only like really good food recommendation in this general area is going to be in Kayenta, it's actually 135 miles east of where the 89A ends. So it's closer to Monument Valley. But if you're doing the side quest to Monument Valley, or if that's the direction you're coming from, Kayenta is going to be the first kind of real town, I guess, when you get like south of Monument Valley. Since it's all Navajo Nation land, it is pretty sparsely populated. There aren't a ton of businesses and like towns there, but Kayenta is like, they have gas stations, they have restaurants.
They have
hotels.
a Taco Bell.
Right. So that's how you know it's like a decent sized town. But they have this little like Mexican cafe called the Amigo Cafe. And I got a burrito there that was the best burrito I've ever had in my life. It was fully vegetarian on the menu. I posted some photos of it. It was so beautiful. I didn't even want to put it in my saddlebags because I didn't want to smash it up. It was gorgeous. It was freaking delicious. I will be dreaming of this burrito forever.
I saw your photos of it and I immediately was like, where is this? Like, I was clicking the location tab on your stories because I was like, I'm adding this to my map for the next time I go through this area. Because going back to what Sanna was saying, she's like, oh, Kayenta's 130 miles from, this area we're talking about. That's not very far in this section of Arizona. Like, there are some stretches that are very few and far between. So yeah, it's like Page, Kayenta, Cameron Trading Post, all of this stuff is really far away from each other, but there's nothing between these little towns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You got to grab food and gas pretty much where you can in this region. And there are, like we're mentioning right now, there's some good ones. So, Davin, do you have any recommendations to add to this?
No, I was just trying to follow you guys on this one. And yes, I've been to the Cameron Trading Post. But yeah, most of the time I end up at Denny's in Page. And it's pretty okay.
I want to say there is one spot in Page. I just looked it up because I do want to mention something here, but I haven't eaten here, but it has been recommended to me, and it's called Sunset 89. And it has like Pacific Rim inspired food.
I've been there.
Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of like Asian-ish inspired food, like Hawaiian style, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Sorry. That's the one that sits like kind of by the Glen Canyon Dam, I think. It's like sits overlooking the river.
It's close to the overlook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Glen Canyon Dam one.
So I don't remember exactly. I don't think I've eaten there. I think I tried to go there and eat, and I stood waiting to be seated for probably 10 or 15 minutes before you
were done.
Then I just gave up and left because I was so hungry and I just couldn't handle it anymore. It's a really beautiful spot. I think they were severely understaffed the time I was there. And I really wanted to eat there because, again, the views are so beautiful. But I can only speak to my experience, which was about as bad as your cookie experience at Jacob Lake.
There we go. So we're even.
Yes, but I would like to go back and try it properly when they have more people working there.
It looks like I've also gone to the Gone West family restaurant in Page, which is next to the, there's a Motel 6, La Quinta, and a couple other spots next to the lumberyard. And I have several photos of this dessert that I got there. That looks pretty tasty.
Ooh.
It does look good. Looks better than Denny's.
So yeah, it must have been a gluten-free chocolate torte with some caramel drizzle and some, I don't know if that's ice cream or whipped cream, but it looks pretty delicious.
Yeah.
I can tell you really remember it.
Yeah, no, I've got all sorts of different angles and dramatic lighting shots, so it must have been good.
Nice.
If you're into breweries, like sometimes I don't really drink anymore, but back in my beer connoisseur days, I really like to end my days, like if I was staying in a town, I would go to a brewery for dinner so I could try like one or two of the, or like a flight. I'd usually get a flight of beer and then try something on the menu. Grand Canyon Brewing and Distillery has a location there. They have a few different locations. But I know there's one in Page as well. I think there's one in Williams, Arizona too. But that could be another one to check out if you're planning to stay in Page for the night. So there's some options for anyone listening to this and who made it towards the end of this podcast to listen to our food wrecks. Page does have a little bit of everything. It's not a huge town, but you might have to do a little bit of digging, and the hours could be weird because it is kind of a small town. So it just depends when you go.
It is not a big town, but it is one of those gateway towns that sits right at the confluence of so many like really epic spots that we'll talk about a few of those in our side quest segment coming right up, which we can run through pretty quickly. But I just, there's so much epic scenery in this general area that I think a lot of people just come to Page for tourism purposes, and so they cater to a tourism crowd. So there might not be, again, like the high culinary scene, but there's definitely going to be food for pretty much all dietary restrictions, and there will be chain hotels and all that stuff.
Everything there. I mean, it's, Kanab is a little bit weird as far as like what it has to offer, but Page has one of everything, I think.
Yeah. All right. So if you're going to be in the Page area, we might as well jump into a couple of other things that you can see and do here. We already talked about Antelope Canyon, which you can see by tour only. You are not allowed to just go to Antelope Canyon on your own. You have to book a tour. There's Upper and Lower Antelope Canyon, and I think the one that you see mostly in people's photos is going to be the Upper Antelope Canyon. That one's a little bit more accessible, but the lower one it's kind of, I would say, the equivalent of the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. I think the Lower Antelope Canyon is a little bit less visited, a little bit harder to get to, and it's also cheaper, I think, to visit, but it's a bit of a longer tour. So just heads up. And there's so many tour companies that you can book these tours through that I don't think you necessarily need to book like that far in advance. I think a couple of days probably is going to suffice, maybe even the day before. There's also in Page, there's Horseshoe Bend, which is an iconic spot where you see a bend in the Colorado River with these red rock views. Again, so spectacular. You have to pay a fee to get in. I think it's probably like $10 or something, unless they've raised the prices because of inflation in this economy. Who can sustain a business if you're only charging $10 a person? So you just have to go in and pay to get in to park, and then you have to walk for a little bit. It's not like a hike. It's just a little walk.
But it's further than you would think.
It is a little further than you would think, which is why I mentioned that you have to walk too. You don't just pull over and see it.
Yeah, no, it's a hike. It's a hike as far as it'll take you a minute to get down there.
Yeah.
Bring some water.
Yes, bring your water, because I've saw some people struggling to get down and back.
Yeah.
So don't be
for sure.
dumb.
And it's touristy, but it's one of those places that's touristy for a reason. It's worth it. It's so beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah, and you can normally get a photo op where it looks like you're the only one there if you try hard enough. So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, bring your selfie sticks. And then also near Page is obviously Lake Powell, also really beautiful. You can swim there, you can paddle, you can do all the lake stuff. Do you guys have any specific Lake Powell recommendations? I've jumped in the water a couple of times, but that's as far as I've gone into the lake.
I've seen it from the distance of Page. That's as close as I've gotten, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm right in between both of you guys, so I've not touched the water, but I've seen it.
Yeah, like I said, I've been there in June when it's really hot, so I've had to go dunk my junk. There's also the Glen Canyon Dam. There's an overlook where you can stop at if you like, dramatic dams, which I do. I think they're cool. So it's another quick kind of photo op. I mean, there's so much in this area. You can just open a map and take your pick. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
There's a reason that Page is a good gateway in that area, because there is just so much to see. If you're into outdoorsy things off the bike, there's just so much to see and do right there in that area. So
yeah, can't go wrong. Honestly, you should ride the Vermilion Cliffs Highway, and then you should just stay a couple of days in this area. I wish again, I don't take my own advice. I would love to go stay there for a few nights and just explore all of this, but I'm always in a rush to crush as many miles as possible.
You're always on the go. I've never, in all the years I've known you, it's very rare that you get to see Sanna spend a couple days checking an area out. She's always up at 5 a.m. and on the road and on to the next spot.
Yeah, why am I like this? I just got to see as many things as possible and ride as many miles as possible. But I do recommend getting up at 5 a.m. in this area because the sunrises are really beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that I want to mention is we've been talking about the 89A, which is the number of the highway, the Vermilion Cliffs Highway. There's also the other 89A, which is the one that goes from Flagstaff down through Sedona and to Prescott. Do we say Prescott?
Prescott.
Yes, okay. Prescott.
I just had a conversation with someone the other day about this, and we're like, is it Prescott? No, it's Prescott.
Okay. Prescott.
Okay. And I think when most people think of the 89A, they think of the Sedona section of it. And that highway has been named one of the most beautiful highways in the U.S. I mean, a while ago, probably, I don't remember which list it was on, but it's one of those really beautiful ones as well. So riding down from Flagstaff to Sedona, really, really beautiful. It's a completely different experience than what we're talking about on this 89A. But I guess the main point here is that if you find yourself in Arizona on a highway called 89A, you're probably going to be pretty stoked because the views are going to be pretty epic. And the ride to and out of Prescott is they're also really amazing. So we should probably do another episode on that part of Arizona, but I just wanted to mention it so there's no confusion on the highway names.
And there's also, speaking of 89 and 89A, you can technically make a giant loop from basically Page. It'll take you over to Kanab, down to Fredonia, then you'll be on the 89A Vermilion Cliffs Highway, and you can essentially make a giant loop and end up back in Page. You can do it in a day if you don't really stop. And you would get to see a lot of cool rocks. But that is an option for anyone thinking of doing something like that. You can make a big loop in that area.
That's what I was originally planning to do on this trip that I was just on. But then my Monument Valley hotel reservation last minute kind of upended my entire route. But
that's a good reason for that, though.
Yeah, it was worth it.
When I saw that you got that room, I was like, oh, I got so excited for you because I know how hard it is to get a room there. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah, someone commented and said it's a 3-year waiting list, which I don't think is true. You can definitely get a room if you book a little bit ahead of time. But I got one the day before.
Shoulder or off season, or if you're in luck and someone cancels last minute. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend trying to snag a room there the night before, but I'm very lucky I got to do it because, oh man, that was so incredible. So that's another side quest, obviously going to Monument Valley, whether you stay at the View Hotel or not. Monument Valley is also one of those iconic road trip destinations in the West. There's the Forrest Gump Point, which is just a viewpoint where you'll see the most iconic view of Monument Valley, the most photographed view. And it's worth stopping there. But there are also a ton of other viewpoints that you could stop at that are less crowded, where you can get good views of the buttes or rock formations or whatever they are, the cool things in Monument Valley.
I prefer to call them booties.
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 Yeah.
Booties.
The butts.
Yeah.
And then if you're heading west, you definitely should go through Zion National Park, which we pretty much don't even probably need to mention that because it's such a like no-brainer. If you're in southern Utah, southwestern Utah, just go through Zion. Even if you don't have time to stop and hike, or even if you don't have hiking permits for, some of those most famous hikes, just riding through it on a motorcycle, just experiencing the road, the switchbacks, the views, the tunnel. It's so freaking beautiful. Literally one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So I've ridden it a few times through Zion, and then I just drove through Zion in my truck. Completely different experiences, way cooler on a motorcycle because the rocks, because you're in like a canyon basically. So all the rocks like truly tower over you. And so you get like a true 360 view of just being engulfed by all these giant red rocks and like kind of blondie, I call them vanilla rocks because they look like vanilla ice cream in some spots. But it's just so cool. Like it was cool to be in my truck because I pulled over a lot and also it was warm that day. So it was nice to be in my air conditioned truck, but it's so much cooler on a motorcycle. But I will say if you do go to Zion, make sure to pack your patience at the tunnel because the tunnel especially if you're coming from the eastern side of the park. So if you go in from the eastern entrance, like what is that little town called? Mount Carmel, where the homemade pies are at Thunderbird. So if you come in from the east side, that side of the tunnel, for whatever reason, gets super backed up. And so there's a ton more cars that sit and wait to go through. From like the 4 times I've been through Zion, it's always a Congo line on the other side. So I always go west to east when I go through Zion. I never go east to west. But every time I come through that tunnel and I see the line of cars, I'm always like, yep, that was the right call. But I've always wanted to know what it's like to go east to west and go through the tunnel and then come into that canyon and see all the rocks the other way. Because I see all the clips on social media of people doing that, and it's just different.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree.
Perspective.
I've done it both ways. I've been to Zion so many times. I've gone back and forth through that tunnel like on the same visit, and it is really special coming from the eastern side, even though I agree there's always a long line of cars there. But if you can get it like early in the morning on a weekday, on the weekends, it's going to be backed up no matter what. But if you can time it when it's not super packed, just going through that tunnel and then having the views of the Zion Canyon open up ahead of you, it's so insanely breathtaking. Like it's hard. I lack words.
Yeah.
All right. I guess there's so many other side quests you can do that kind of originate from this general area. You can go to up to Utah. You can do Moab. You can do Highway 12, which is one of, I think, our collective favorite roads probably in the country because it's so beautiful. You go through Bryce Canyon, Escalante. There are red stone arches that over the road itself. It's so good. We have to do a separate episode on Highway 12, so that's coming at some point. And then I think we mentioned Kanab a little bit. There's the Coral Pink Sand Dunes. I think it's a state park out there that has really beautiful sand dunes. You can rent a sandboard and go sandboarding there, which is cool. I haven't done it there, but I've done it in Colorado at the Great Sand Dunes National Park, and it's really fun. There's also like all the Western filming history and like a little movie museum and a ghost town and stuff around there. So that part of like kind of the Utah side of it is also really cool. Anything in this region is going to be beautiful. You just can't go wrong.
Yeah, that area is very special.
Yes. Anything else we should talk about?
I think we hit all the notes, honestly. It's did we talk about how cool the rocks are?
I think we might have mentioned it.
Yeah, Utah is as good as it gets. Like that whole Utah, Arizona area. If you want to go on an epic motorcycle ride, Utah seems like it's just never ending.
Yeah, southern Utah, northern Arizona, like
Yep.
that region is just, it's unreal. I think that's it for today. If you enjoyed this episode, we would really love it if you could rate and review it and subscribe to the show so you don't miss anything. Also follow at The Scenic Ride on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you can find us really. And check out thescenicride.com for previous episodes, merch, and to sign up for our newsletter. And next time, Staci will be talking about the Natchez Trace Parkway, which will be focused on some historic sites and maybe not the most scenic riding necessarily, but still a really good road to ride. Until then, enjoy the ride.
Davin's always trying to fuck this up.
I was sorry.
Enjoy.
I was trying to wait for you guys because you like it. Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy it.
Brother.
Or else.
Do it.
Brother. The Scenic Ride is hosted by Staci Wilt, Davin Ortonen, and me, Sanna Bowman. Our theme music is by Ryan Sin. If you like the show, please rate and review it and tell your friends to listen. For all the latest updates, follow at The Scenic Ride on Instagram or visit thescenicride.com. Thanks for listening.